How can you invest and make money in today's real estate market? Welcome to the Successful Investor Show, where we talk with successful real estate investors, business owners, and busy professionals on their journey to wealth. They share their best ways and advice to make massive gains in today's market. Make sure you are subscribed so you never miss an episode. Now, here is your host, Doron Nissim.
Welcome everyone to the Successful Investor Show, where we talk about how to passively invest and create passive income and generational wealth. I'm your host, Doron Nissim, and today I have the pleasure to have our guest, Mark Monroe. Mark, how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, doing well. Can't complain. Weather in Florida has been beautiful. It's actually been pretty warm this winter. You know, it's kind of like I've had the AC on more than normal, and it's today I think we're pushing 90.
Yeah, it's been hot. Definitely. So Mark has been investing and doing real estate for the past 25 years. He actually started at the age of 24 and been doing creative real estate and doing lease options. And he actually bought a multifamily with zero down. He's a best-selling author for creative real estate investing. He loves helping investors and love helping people to create real estate, to create wealth, and to make money in real estate. So Mark, I'm so excited to have you here. Let's hear your story.
I appreciate it. Yeah. God, where do I begin? I guess I started, like you said, I started out real estate banking, back at the age of 24, back in 1995, when I got into up in Washington, D.C. area. So that's where I really started my career. I did do my first real estate deal, believe it or not, at 19.
Wow.
What we were talking about before we went live, it was a Carlton Sheets. So I did it. I was 19 years old, and I didn't know any better. A small little town up in Vermont, and the bandit signs, "We buy homes" or whatever. Like, actually, I don't even think they're bandit signs. I went to the hardware store because I don't think we had Home Depot back then, and I got a magic marker that that wouldn't. I wrote "We buy homes," and I went and put them up on the telephone poles. I didn't realize, at the age of 19, I'm going to get in trouble from the jurisdiction of putting signs up on the telephone poles. I was like, ooh. So, but during that time period, what happened was I had the seller reach out to me, and he had a mobile home. He goes, "Hey, I got this mobile home that's worth $21,000. Give me $18,000 for it." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not interested in mobile home." So a week goes by, he calls back. He goes, "Give me $15,000 for this mobile home. It's worth 21." And I'm like, I don't know anything about it. I'm not interested. So probably 2 or 3 weeks goes by. He calls me back. He goes, "Give me $12,000 for this property, this mobile home. It's worth, $21,000." And I'm like, "All right, do you own the land?" Because now I'm thinking, okay, this might be a deal here now. I go, "Do you own the land?" He goes, "No." I said, "So it's in a mobile home park?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, and he goes, I can't, I need to sell it because I'm not living here and I got lot rent." And I'm like, "Well, you know what? Like I said before, I'm not interested, So then about a month goes by. He calls me up. He goes, "Come on, give me $6,000 for this mobile home. It's worth 21,000." Now I'm thinking back in my head. I'm like, okay, now, and I kept saying, "You know what? I'm not interested. Sorry. But you know what? I'll give you 3,000 for it." He goes, "Give me 4,000. I'm like, "I'm really not interested." He goes, "All right, I'll take $3,000. So I said, "All right, this is what I'm going to do. I got to go get a contract." We didn't have the internet. I had to go to like a Staples store to, to get the contract. I said, "Meantime, I'm going to send somebody out there to do an inspection." So I hung up the phone, put a classified ad in the newspaper: mobile home for sale, $25,000, seller financing with $3,000 down. First person called me up, a lady. She goes, "Hey, me and I want it for my children and my boyfriend." They went out there. They loved it. They wanted it. So I'm sure I screwed the paperwork up, because there's a mobile home. It's like an auto sale. You have to do a bill
of sale.
So then I went out there and I structured it, and I said, okay, $3,000 down, 7.5% or 7.75%, whatever it is, over 7 years. And my payment was like $279 a month for 7 years. So I was 19 years old. That was my car payment, and insurance back then. So that was my first real estate taste of it. And then I didn't do my next one until probably like, 24, 25. So yeah, that's kind of what my background is. I've been doing a lot of creative real estate investing. My background's real estate banking. I had a mortgage company up in the Washington, D.C. area with 107 loan officers back in the day. So a lot of my clients were investors, and I started learning I became friends with them, and I kind of learned a lot of different strategies. And then the first one I kind of tapped into was the lease options. Then we did seller financing, then we did agreement for deed and the sub two, and then you
Wow.
start just becoming more, now to a point you start doing like creative different things once you've been doing it for so long. Like now I even do like novation creative deals, like that type of thing. So there's
Yeah.
just so many different ways of going about it.
Yeah, that's the best thing about real estate. You can find so many ways to structure a deal and be creative. It's just it's a fun thing to do. And I
Mhm.
mean, in your career, you did. I read that you did about $400 million in transactions. Was there like a something like a great deal, the best deal that you can tell us about?
I would say the one would I bought for, it was 13 doors with 0 down.
Yeah.
That's probably the best one. It was 0 down, and they reached out to me. So I have like 600 bird dogs that bring me deals. I got a lot of bird dogs,
Right.
and I'm gonna a golden nugget here. Probably my best source for deal flow are hospice nurses.
Okay.
You know, yeah, it does. It works. I mean, like I just did one. I'll jump back to the best deal, but I just did one where, it was an elderly couple. He's ill. She's older, and she couldn't take care of him, so they had to move in with a daughter, and the daughter was 3 hours away, and it's just too much for them. They've owned this home for 30 years, so the time when they got it ready, prep, put on the MLS, there's just so much work that had to get done, and they're more concerned about what's going on with the health issues. So they reached out to me, and I said, you know what? Just take what you want, and whatever you don't want, just leave behind. And we ended up doing a seller financing deal on that. And I'm paying her, she's getting over 7 years on a payment. I mean, they left everything, even a cable box was left behind,
Wow.
that type of thing. So
Yeah.
that's one example where hospice nurses. But anyways, back to the other deal. Somebody reached out to me. What happened was it's a sad situation. The father used to own a bunch of multifamily or apartments throughout the town. He passed away probably 8 to 10 years prior, and then the 20-year-old daughter took over, and she started managing it, and she got in a motorcycle accident, and she didn't make it. So then
Wow.
the mother was just getting overwhelmed of all the, didn't know how to manage it, but she liked that passive income, and the property is free and clear. So the other daughter reached out to me and say, hey, I know you purchase real estate, and she's an attorney, so she knew exactly, she did real estate attorney. So she reached out to me. We ended up purchasing it, and we bought it, we closed on August 30th. We got money back at closing, which is really security, and last month. And then 2 days later, we collected a little bit more than $10,000 in rent checks. So we, in a sense, we got paid to take that property. Now, sure, it needs work, but that's probably one of the better deals that we end up doing.
Wow. Wow. So you talked about two things that I wanted to ask you that I'm curious. First thing is how that seller actually found you.
Through
How
social
did the
media.
daughter? Yeah, oh, the
Through,
daughter found you through social media.
yeah, exactly, through social media. Just kind of finding, kind of ways like how we're doing this right now.
So that's the power of networking, basically. Networking through social media. That's
It is.
awesome.
However, my attorney tells me, he goes, his exact words are, "You are an effing moron for putting yourself out there like that."
Yeah. No, I mean it's the best way, and today, I mean that's the way to go. And the second thing that you talked about is those nurses that I'm curious. How do you find those nurses? And
So once you get one, it snowballs from there. Just the same thing, networking. There's groups out there. Social media is great. I think how I found out when I was in a nurse group. So I go in a lot of groups that are not real estate related, and that's where I go into skiing, I go into travel. So I'll go into these groups, and I'll comment, and people get to know me, and then every so often I'll say, hey, I'm looking for a property that needs some TLC, and they reach out to me through that way.
nice.
That's another source. So there's just so many different ways. I mean, trashmen, they know the neighborhood, the homes are empty, landscapers, snowplow removals, Amazon drivers. I mean, it goes on and on.
Right.
Just kind of do a lot of different bird dogs. So, but once you get a hospice nurse, because they're there with the family a lot, and they know what's going on. The children are flying in and whatever it may be. So, and it's just a part of the process. And, they just kind of reach out to me.
And you teach them the real estate, or you just get
They
the
just
deals?
refer it over saying, hey, Mark can kind of help you out. He buys some properties. Maybe he's got some ideas or suggestions to kind of make it easier process for you guys.
I gotcha. All right, that's awesome. That's a great way. So in all your career, do you have like a deal that you wish you didn't do, a bad deal, or something like that, that we can learn from?
Be careful selling your properties on a rent to own and I don't want to get political, a non-landlord friendly state, more tenant friendly state, like Massachusetts. I got my butt handed to me on a deal up there
Okay.
because they work the system, and so it's just that's probably one. It's you have some goods and bad ones, but so that one is just gonna be really careful of doing a lease option and selling it to the end buyer. But it's sad because most people want to own a home, they want to become home ownership. So that's the beauty of when you do like lease options, when you sell to somebody, or an agreement for deed, is like you're giving them an opportunity to become a homeowner, and it's a great program set up. And a lot of times these mortgage underwriters, if they've been making payments on this property for 24 or 36 months, it's easier for them to get the financing, and plus by that time they can get the credit all line. So I can't tell you how many times I come across people that make really good income, but they've had some credit challenges sometime in the past, and it takes them a little time to get there, and instead they get stuck renting where they can have that pathway of home ownership.
Right. Yeah, and definitely it's giving them an opportunity, and probably much less a price, fees, all that structure is better for the person to get into a home.
100%. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the beauty of why I like, the creative real estate that I've been doing for so long, because you're helping the seller, right? In whatever their situation, and then you're helping a buyer, and then you make a little money in between,
Right.
or you can end up holding it yourself. There's so many different ways going about it. Even doing land, like working with a seller of the land, where you can go ahead and I remember we did one where the seller wanted to sell the property, and he wanted a certain amount, and said, hey, you know what, if you want to stay in it, we can JV on it, and we'll go through and do a subdivision. Every time there's a lot sold, then you pay that way. And he ended up making more money doing it, structured it like that.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing. That's a great way to structure a deal. So in today's market, I mean, it's kind of shaky. I guess the whole economy is kind of shaky, and people are talking about recession and things like that. What are the things that you do to mitigate risk in your business, in the real estate acquisitions, or in general?
I'm always looking at risk on every file. Risk is the number one thing I look at. Um, but even if it's too risky for me, I'm more than happy to help a seller out and give them some advice and guide them and give them some pointers, what I'd recommend. But if it's a risky file, I'll always look at two things. I look at the seller. What are they trying to accomplish? What are they trying to do? And immediately, who's my buyer or who's my person I'm going to put in there. So that's the two things I always look at. And then, what is my risk factor in the property? We're always in today's society, we all work really hard. I can't tell you how hard I worked, to learn everything. We're always wanting to learn. And in today's society, it seems like if you own real estate, you're the big bad landlord, that type of thing. We
Right.
work really hard. I had a friend of mine, they purchased a condo in their 20s, and then they decided they wanted children, so they went and bought a home, and it's like, okay, we'll keep the condo so we can rent it, and that will be our retirement. Well,
Right.
during COVID, these people stopped paying, and meanwhile, these nice people had to dip into the 401k to cover the mortgage because they couldn't qualify for one of these bailout programs for the government. And then this person ended up staying in a house for almost 2 years, and
Wow.
he got a new car. The person's on Disney, just working the system. So it's tough environment nowadays. So you just got to always look at the risk and be careful. It's like everybody's wanting everything for free, and now the people that work really hard, they're trying to take from a lot of people. So I don't, let me go on and on, but I just see a lot of that happening where we worked so hard back in the day. I mean, I was working at 15 years old, and nowadays
Right.
these people don't start working, and they just want things kind of given out. So it's a different world today.
Right.
But like you said, there's with the economy and the way things are right now is like there's opportunity there, but when you go into it, like before I used to do like a lease option, or if something like that, I would do like 3 years. Now I'll do 5 years, because if the market pulls back, it needs to have time to recover.
Right. Yeah. So basically finding the best deal, structuring the best way, and having enough time, just a gap to make
Right.
it go back
Yeah.
up.
But you
Yeah.
make it a win for the seller too. Like I had one where
Right.
we showed the seller, like they wanted out. What the problem with this one is, they had to move for a job location, and this other property has been sitting trying to sell it for 3 or 4 months. It's not in our market, but it was another market that slowed
Yeah.
down quite a bit. So they're open to doing some type of seller financing terms, and they wanted it like 3 or 5 years. So what I did was I got them on the phone. I always do an amortization schedule. I did an amortization schedule. I sent it to the seller. I said, do me a favor. Let's just kind of go through this, and like, let's use a scenario. Go down to line 120, see what it says, 120 payments. That's 10 years. How much money, write this down. How much money did you collect during that time period? She wrote it down. She said the number. I said, over to the right, see the payoff? How much is that? Write that number down. Now add those two numbers up. What's that total? And then wait, how much money are you trying to sell the property for? This.
Right.
And then what's that difference? It was $129,000 difference that they're going to make becoming the bank.
Wow. But it's a great way to show the people what they're gonna get at the end. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're diversifying. Like the smart real estate investors to diversify. They don't have all the money just in one, like one source, like one vehicle, if you will, like the stock market. You want to diversify,
Right.
especially if they're like experienced investors and they have they're going to get hit with capital gains. So they'd rather sell it through like a seller financing, so an installment sale, so they don't get hit as much with taxes.
Right. Exactly. That's awesome. Yeah, it's a great advice. Yeah. All right, so we're going to move to the fire round. The 4 success questions are going to help our viewers to be more successful. So the first one is, what is your 3 best success habits that you have?
Positive mindset, positive mind, taking care of your health, working out, and then surrounding yourself by, positive people that are not going to pull you backwards, and always constantly learning. So those are probably things: being positive mind, be around positive people, and then and taking care of your mind and your body.
Right. Those are great. Definitely keep you up to and being sharp and be where you want to be.
And like you said before, networking in real estate. I had a business at one time, and you're always worried about the competitors of stealing your deals, right?
Right.
In real estate, good people that you work with, you end up doing deals together. You help each other out. You lift each other up. If you're in real estate and somebody's pulling you down, be careful. That's a red flag. If you're with somebody and you're networking and they're lifting you up, those are the people that you want to surround yourself with. And then you end up doing real estate deals with.
Exactly. And I say in real estate, you don't compete, you collaborate. So if you collaborate with other people, you actually make your business much more. If you compete, you stay behind.
Yep.
So,
and failure is only a learning experience. That's all it is. So if you're not failing, you're not succeeding. Look at Elon Musk. Look at how many times they failed with SpaceX.
Crazy. Definitely. All right. So the next question is for you is, what is a good resource that you use in your business on a daily basis?
AI.
AI.
Now that we're at that point,
Right.
ChatGPT. I'd say resources, the internet in general. Like, I was into this before the internet came along. Networking, I would say, just networking. There's so many different great resources online.
Right. Yeah. Networking online, social media, all those things to use. And actually, you can actually learn how to use them to your advantage. Because, if you just play with it, it's just a game. But if you actually use it to your business and know what to do with it, it's a very powerful tool to use in a business, the social media. Yeah. All right. So the next one is, what are your 3 tips for making money today in real estate?
Passive income. That's probably, and then, don't lose money.
Right.
Passive income, That's kind of the one thing that I like, is because we all want that passive income. And what you said, how many? Three of them?
Three, yes,
So
three tips
passive
for me.
income.
Yes,
Yep. Passive income, and then just look. I mean, you always have to be out there looking for real estate deals, constantly. Majority, 95% of people are selling it traditionally. So you got to be out there turning over rocks to find those ones that are out there. Just like any type of business, if you're buying a car or you're buying a widget or whatever it may be, you just want to look for the right one. And then I guess the next one will be just, looking at the risk, looking at the risk of it, and like understanding, you know, you're a little bit younger. When I was your age, I took a lot more risk. Now that I'm a little older, I'm a lot more like being very cautious on it,
right,
because one bad deal can wipe you out and make you start all over.
right, exactly. Now you talked about finding deals. What would you say is a good source to find deals today?
My mouth. No, just l- going into, like I mentioned earlier, probably some of the Facebook groups, going up to meetups, just when you're out and about talking to people. If you're an Uber, talking to the Uber driver, Amazon, just constantly just talk to people and let them know what you do, and just kind of, and just network. It's all about networking. It's really
Right.
what it is. The more networking is, you're spreading it, you're getting a lot more out there.
Right. And a good way to know if a deal is good is to actually reach out to people like you or to experienced investors in the market and make sure that the deal is actually a good deal and not just something that they're
Like you said before, it's collaborating. So if you're new in this business and you want guidance, and that's how I learned it. I learned from somebody's experience. And you could be a bird dog at first, like, hey, you know what? Because you got to remember, if you're reaching out to somebody that has experience, keep in mind we're very busy and our time's valuable. So
right.
bring some value to the table to an experienced real estate investor. Like, hey, I got this deal. Do you mind showing me how to do it? And then maybe we'll split it, or maybe I'll only take, the first one I'll do 25 and you get more. So they teach you that stuff. So you're bringing value. If you're bringing value to another real estate investor, or like if there's somebody out there that has capital, I can't tell you how many
Right.
times people, physicians, they have capital, but they don't have time for real estate. So reach out to another real estate investor and that has some experience, and you can put the capital to work for you.
Exactly. That's awesome. All right. So the last question that I have for you for today. So for people that have a full-time job, and you actually touched on it, but they have full-time job, they want to do real estate but have no time. What can they do to actually start that?
Well, if you have the capital, like you said, find some experienced people out there, and put your capital to work for you. Otherwise, if you are having a 9 to 5 job and you want to kind of learn it, just take your time. Even if you only do 2 deals a year and you start learning it and you start building up your capital. I mean, I can't tell you, like, if the VAs, people that come out of the military, I mean, if you use your VA eligibility and you do one home every year or one home every 2 years, and just do 5 homes and get them paid off. When you go
Right.
to retirement, that's
Th-
great cash flow, and that's good retirement.
Yeah.
Just do five, just get 5 homes when you're in your early 20s or early 30s, and start and have the tenants pay the mortgage off. And then by the time you retire, you could sell those or just sit back and collect the rent.
Right. And that's a great way to build wealth, generational wealth, wealth for your kids, and actually retire and have a lot of money coming in every month. So I love that. Yeah. So if people want to reach out to you and get in touch with you, how can they find you?
Sure. They can link tree Mark Monroe, or go to any social media, Mark Monroe in Boca Raton, or it's MARK, with a dash in there, MONROE.com, Mark Monroe, or the link tree, any of the LinkedIn, Facebook, any of those places, just type in Mark Monroe Boca Raton.
All right. That's awesome. Also, I wanted to ask you about your book. You have a best-selling book, Creative Real Estate. So, what can you tell us about your book?
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon. Just look up Creative Real Estate Investing or Mark Monroe. Yeah, so what I do is I break it down. We talk about subject to wholesaling, lease options, straight seller financing, and agreement for deeds or contract for deeds. It's called different in different states. I appreciate it. Yeah, it was a bestseller on Amazon a couple months ago. for about
awesome.
5 days in a row. So yeah, I appreciate for everybody that's listening and supporting it. But
Yeah.
if you want a copy, just jump over to Amazon and just search my name, Mark Monroe, or Creative Real Estate Investing. I appreciate
That's
it.
awesome. Thank you so much. It was a great episode, and you gave us so much information, and I'm sure people will have a lot of knowledge from this episode. So
I appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me.
thank you.
Bye-bye, guys.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Successful Investor Show. If you're enjoying this podcast, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Once again, thank you for tuning in, and we hope you'll join us on the next episode of the Successful Investor Show.